Back in July, Sweat Tent Sauna reached out to me and said, hey, we've got a sauna invention we'd love to send to you so that you can potentially review it. I got it, I did a full review on it, and since then I've helped people make the decision to purchase a Sweat Tent Sauna. And what's cool about it is I get a lot of private messages and DMs on my Instagram, which is @dmossjr. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And a lot of the questions are basically this: how do I maximize owning and using my Sweat Tent Sauna? Because I do a lot of wellness nights where I have people come over and we get really, really hot and sweaty, we jump into the cold plunges, and we do full-blown wellness nights, and they're really, really fun. And a lot of people out there want to do the same thing. But how do you maximize using your Sweat Tent Sauna? How do you maximize the temperature safely? How do you manage owning your Sweat Tent Sauna? And what are some of the best practices? So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I've learned over the past 6 months of owning and using the Sweat Tent Sauna on a regular basis. So let's jump in. And hey, if you find any of the information that I share valuable, please make sure you like the video, subscribe, share it with a friend, and comment. It really helps YouTube push the videos out to more people so that more people can see. And if you want to support me at all, I'll never ask you for money, but please feel free to use any of the discount links that I have down in the description of all of my videos. Those are all the brands that I recommend and partnered up with because I believe in them. So feel free to check those out after today's show. But now let's get to the sweat tent. The first thing I want to talk about is where should you set up your sweat tent? See, I live in a community that has an HOA, and obviously a lot of people do. And most HOAs are going to say, no, we don't want a big sauna in your backyard. The cool thing is this is just a portable tent. So you can actually set this up, you can take it down, and it takes only a few minutes for you to completely tear this thing down and completely put this thing back together. So it's a portable sauna, which is super, super convenient. If you live in a high wind area, there are multiple anchor points at the bottom. There's also multiple anchor points on the sides. There's even an anchor point at the top if you want to tie it up to a tree or something like that too, to just really anchor this thing down and keep it from blowing away, because it is extremely lightweight. Now, it's made out of a very high quality and durable material, which is great because I've been able to get my Sweat Tent Sauna up to the mid 200s, which was dangerous, but I just wanted to see how hot I could get this thing. There are multiple windows that you can see out of that. As you can see, I've left mine outside. I have not taken this thing down in months, and it's sat here for months and gets used almost every single day. And the only negative is there is some slight discoloration on the windows, probably from the sun, but it doesn't change the fact that I can still sit in there and see out and watch my kids have fun and play. There's 3 windows on the sides, there's a smaller window on the back, and there's 2 doors. There's a door on this side that zips. It also has Velcro that you can Velcro on the side here to keep open. And then on the exact opposite side, a mirror image, there's another door with the same features. This is designed with quite a few vents as well on the side here, which is going to help keep airflow circulating inside. You always want to have fresh air inside your sauna, otherwise the air inside your sauna can get stale and it's going to get extremely uncomfortable and potentially dangerous. And then at the top, you can see the chimney sticks out of a nice little hole, so all of the smoke is going to escape out the top. Now, there's not a ton of smoke. When you first start your sauna up, depending on the wood you use, there might be quite a bit of smoke that comes out the chimney at first. But once you get your fire going and start experimenting with different wood, you're going to find that there's almost no smoke. So that's the outside. Let's go ahead and jump in. Do you like the Sweat Tent Sauna?
Yeah, let's get sweaty today, Dad. Let's get so sweaty.
All right, so I'll give you a quick tour of the inside of my Sweat Tent Sauna. So one of the things I love about the Sweat Tent Sauna is the room. You know, for an investment under $1,500, you have a Sweat Tent Sauna. We've been able to fit over 10 people in here. Now, there are a few things that I want to point out that can be quite dangerous, so you need to keep that in mind. The stove gets extremely hot. When I say extremely hot, do not ever touch it. Once you have a fire going in there, you want to make sure you keep people away from this stove. You don't want anyone touching physically this stove, because the stove will reach extremely hot temperatures where it will melt your skin if you touch it. Now, that's the disclaimer. Obviously, when you're playing with fire, playing with anything that gets extremely hot, any sauna for that matter, you don't want to touch the stove. However, even with that in mind, there is going to be some times while the stove is on that you are going to have to handle the stove, such as when you want to put more wood into it to raise the temperature or keep your fire going and keep your sauna session going. You're also going to have the opportunity to pour water on your rocks. And so this video makes more sense to everybody. I'm going to point out some of the accessories that I have in my Sweat Tent Sauna to maximize my experience with my Sweat Tent Sauna. First thing, I got myself a thermometer. I like to have a thermometer, and I've experimented with different places and different heights of it. I found that putting it right over here about the same height as my head gives me a pretty accurate temperature of what the temperature where I am sitting is going to be. There was a time that I had it up on the roof because it was just easy to look up and see it. There was a time where I had it just kind of down on the ground, but you want to understand that heat rises, so it is going to be hotter up top than it's going to be where you are sitting and where your head is. So try to keep your thermometer where your head is so you can get an accurate gauge of how hot it is when you are getting in your sauna. A few other accessories that I highly recommend. One is going to be an oven mitt. Sweat Tent has their own oven mitts. These are extremely valuable when it comes time to put more wood into your fire, especially when everything is going, because it prevents any accidents from happening. I have used my own bare hand and thrown wood in there, but every once in a while it gets stuck and I'm having to like tap it in to try to get it in without burning my hand. If I just threw my oven mitt on, I would have no issues. I could literally grab the log, shove it in there, and have no issues. So an oven mitt is definitely something I would recommend. I would also recommend a little poker. Sweat Tent also offers these little pokers. I don't use it as a fire poker. I really, once the wood's placed in there, I don't move it around a ton. What I use this for is to actually clean off the grate. I know there's probably other accessories you can use for that, but I use it to kind of wipe away the ash because I use this so often. I'm having to clean out my ashtray quite often. And once again, I have this sitting on my stove when it's not going on, but you don't want to have anything on your stove or even near your stove that can burn or melt or get extremely hot, because it will happen. The next thing I highly recommend, especially if you're planning on cranking the temperature up, is get yourself a few sauna hats. Everyone who gets in your sauna and wants to do a session longer than 5-10 minutes at 200 plus degrees should be wearing a sauna hat. What this does is this helps protect your head from overheating and also helps protect your hair. There's a bunch of other scientific benefits, but wearing a sauna hat, you might look goofy, but it's definitely recommended. If you plan on using your sauna rocks and creating steam in here, which is really, really nice, it actually gets really hot and really heavy, you're gonna wanna get this little water pail. And one of the things I recommend doing too is, instead of just using water, grab an essential oil like eucalyptus oil. We have a ton of different essential oils. We use diffusers, we've used them for years. So we like to take eucalyptus oil, put some of that in the water. When we pour it over the rocks, it just creates a really nice environment, a great smell, opens up your airways, and just feels really, really good. And then the last thing I highly recommend, and I just purchased for myself, is get 2 of the benches. Because you can fit more people if you have 2 benches. You could get 1 bench, you could put your own seats in here, but we've experimented with a ton of the different seats that we have out here. And the best thing we found is Sweat Tent has these benches that are pre-made in the right size to fit right in here. They're foldable, mobile, super easy to deal with. They don't get hot. So we have 2 benches in here so that we can maximize the space in here and get more and more people in here. Now let's switch gears. So one of the cool things, this is the back door. One of the cool things that I didn't realize until I started using it on a regular basis was the zippers to close up your sauna. Here's a tip. They have the metal part of the zipper. They also have a fabric part of the zipper. You are gonna want to close your doors with the zippers down low. That's gonna prevent that metal from getting really hot when your temperature starts to rise. You also, when you use your zipper and go in and out of your sauna while it's hot, make sure you don't grab the metal part of the zipper. Make sure you grab the actual fabric. Otherwise you might burn your finger, especially if you have your zipper up high. That's why I always recommend closing your doors and keeping the zippers at the lowest point. That way the zipper doesn't get super, super hot. All right, let's quickly talk about the cost of use. So one of the coolest things about the Sweat Tent Sauna is, yes, you could purchase this entire setup for under $1,500. And yes, I have a link down in the description below. It'll even save you more money. That's great. What about the cost of wood? If you don't live in an area where you can just chop down a few trees and use the wood from your natural environment, and you have to go purchase wood like I do here in Florida, wood can get pretty expensive. A lot of this wood that I purchase, I just get from Publix. Every time I go grab groceries, I'll grab a bag or 2 of this wood. Looks just like this. And it costs about $9 per bag. And it's not a lot. That's the problem. I always try to grab the bags. I always try to pick out the wood that is a little bit smaller so that I can get a little bit more use out of it. But it's about $9 per bag, and each bag lasts me about a week depending on how many times I fire this up and depending on how many longer sessions we have. But you are gonna have to factor in wood. The good news is you don't have to factor in any electricity. You could take the Sweat Tent Sauna anywhere. You could take it off the grid, you could take it camping with you. It fits into a nice little to-go pack, the stove as well. The entire chimney folds up and goes inside the stove. It's very easy for you to take anywhere with you and set up absolutely anywhere. It's not a permanent setup at all, even though I kind of use it as a permanent setup. But you don't need any electricity, and a lot of the other saunas are going to need or require 30, 40, potentially 50 amps dedicated circuit for that sauna to operate at its maximum capacity. Cool thing is, all you need is more wood. So you can save a lot of money on electricity by opting in for a Sweat Tent Sauna or a wood fire stove, which is really, really cool. But there is going to be a cost to the wood. There's also going to be a cost to starting that wood. Now, a lot of you out there are probably way better than me. You probably went to Boy Scouts. I did not. I use tumbleweeds. These things light right up. They start my stove very, very simply. So the only 2 things I need other than wood is a tumbleweed and a lighter. With a tumbleweed and a lighter, I can set up my little teepee of wood in there, get it started. It'll typically start right up and gets hot within 10 to 20 minutes. Now I'm gonna quickly take this off the tripod and show you guys around, give you a little tour. So I have my stove right here at the entrance, so like right when you walk into the main door of my sweat tent. The stove is the first thing you see. It's kind of cool as soon as you open the door when the fire is on, especially at night. You can see that flame and it just kind of gives you that cool feeling. I've got 2 benches, like I said, and I've configured it to where it's like a little L in here, and we've been able to fit 8 people comfortably in here, not all sitting, but you know, couples sitting on each other's laps and stuff like that. You got to get a little intimate when you're inside the sweat tent sauna. But the cool thing is it's 6 foot by 6 foot, and at the peak here, I'm 6'1", so I think it's 6'6". I don't remember the exact measurements, but it's tall enough for people to stand around. Like even if someone's standing on the side here, like it's tall enough for me, 6'1", to stand here, and the roof is made out of the same fabric. It doesn't get hot, it doesn't retain heat. So if you touch the fabric of the tent itself, it's not gonna be hot. And that was a question that I had. Another really cool thing that a lot of people have asked me is like the floor. What type of floor do you have to put this on, because it's getting really, really hot, right? It's crazy. Like I like to bring my phone in, sometimes I like to film content while I'm in here, and because there's these vents down low, and because it's really like it's easy to have airflow, and the ants also really like to come in here because it's dry right now. But there's so much airflow that the floor actually stays pretty cool, and you can keep your phone in with you and just put it down on the floor. You can keep drinks in here with you and keep them down on the floor. And even if it's 230 degrees, like the lower below the bench doesn't necessarily get too hot to where it's going to be blistering hot and uncomfortable. All that to say, you could pretty much put it on anything. I believe you could absolutely put it on Trex decking or turf or grass or dirt or pavers. My pavers, even when I have this thing cranking up, the pavers never get hot. Okay, now I want to show you real time how I actually start my sweat tent sauna, because we are going to do a little wellness session today. So first thing I'm going to do, and I've already done this, but typically after a session, all of this is going to be loaded up with ash. So what I'll do is I'll take my little poker and I'll literally just wipe the ash to the sides, push some of the ash to the back. I want to get as much of the old ash as possible out of the way, because I want air to flow through these grates up into the fire, because that's going to keep my fire going really strong, and it's going to help my sauna get really, really hot. Every once in a while, which is for me a lot, I'm going to take out my ash tray and I'm going to go dump it. I have chickens at the other house, so sometimes I'll dump the ash in a bucket and I'll bring the ash over to the chickens. They love it. It helps to keep the mites off of them. They use it as like an insect repellent, which is super, super cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tumbleweed, I'm going to take my lighter, and I'm going to grab 2 larger logs. One for sure. So I'm going to take 1 larger log, shove it all the way in there. I like to angle the back up depending on the log. Some of them are cut like literally just too big, which can be annoying. So as long as it's inside the outside of this, it's going to be totally fine. So I'll take 1 larger log, so I'll take 1 smaller log and shove it in there. See if I can do this. I might have chose too big of a piece. No, it's fine. So 1 smaller piece, and I want to have myself a nice little gap, somewhere where I can take this tumbleweed underneath both pieces of wood and go ahead and shove it in there. So I'm going to actually go ahead and just light that tumbleweed. It should light right up really, really easily, and I'm going to shut it. As soon as I shut it, the stove starts doing what it's meant to do, and that is pulling oxygen in through these vents, shoving it up. The fire is going to burn, and then the smoke will end up going outside. And we're going to let that work for a little bit. That should catch fire. A big tip is don't assume that just because you lit a tumbleweed and you have everything looking pretty, don't assume that it's going to work perfectly and you know walk away and go make dinner and all that stuff, because I've done that a few times, and then you come back and you're like, crap, it choked out, because it does happen. So as soon as you get the fire going, walk away, do whatever you want to do, but come back and check about every 2 minutes until the wood itself is on fire. Once the wood's on fire, you should be good to go, and let your sweat tent start to generate heat. I do want to answer a few questions that I get on a regular basis, and I'm just going to kind of show you exactly how I would do it. Now, not all wood is cut the same. A lot of times you can get wood that's cut like this, like a little bit of a triangle with a little round part on it. But this is how you'll typically get some of the wood. But it's not always like that. Sometimes you'll get massive blocks of wood that's cut into a square. The entry point on your stove is a smaller rectangle. So not all this wood is going to fit in. Sometimes you need to grab an axe. You're going to have to cut it down a little bit smaller. But for this video, I do want to show you how I start my sweat tent. And I just showed you, but I just want to kind of demonstrate it like this. I'm going to try to shove this wood in there to where there's going to be a little bit of an angle if this was on a flat surface. Then I'm going to take another piece and I'm going to try to shove it in there to where I'm closing it off at the top, but creating a little bit of a triangle. You see that little triangle there? That's where I'm going to put my kindling, or I'm going to put my tumbleweed, and I'm going to start it up. because that's gonna heat up the logs much faster, and the logs are gonna start to retain that heat. And when they can retain that heat, that's when they're gonna actually catch fire. Now, I start every one of my sauna sessions with 2 pieces of wood. And then as soon as those are lit and I have room, I'll start throwing a 3rd and then sometimes a 4th piece of wood. So if you're trying to reach those higher temperatures like I've showed, the 220, 230 degree sauna temperatures, you are gonna want, you're my sweet boy, you are gonna wanna make sure you use 3, potentially 4 pieces of wood. All right, so that is kind of the sweet spot I've found. 2 pieces of wood, getting it started, will usually get me into that 160, 180, depending on the ambient temperature outside. 3 pieces of wood always gets me over 200, and I'm talking 3 pieces burning all at the same time. 4 pieces, depending on the size of the wood, that's where it'll really crank up. Now, a couple things to also keep in mind is the stove will potentially turn bright red. Don't let it scare you if it gets beet red, but it will potentially turn beet red. The chimney itself will also potentially turn beet red when you're reaching those really high temperatures. But all in all, I've been extremely impressed with the sweat tent. That's why I've made so much content about it, and I've been a big advocate for them. It's been really cool. I was actually mentioned in Forbes for my review on sweat tent. I was even compared to Marcus Brownlee, which was extremely humbling. I was honored to be mentioned as a comparison between him. So maybe one day my subscriber count will reflect that. I just want to help, you know, and that's the cool thing. I love wellness. I love getting my kids out here and teaching them how to use these wellness tools. I'm a big family man. Absolutely love having friends and family and just people who've never experienced this come over and give it a try and really feel well. That's my goal for 2024. I'm shooting this video at the end of 2023. I want you all to know I'm super grateful, super blessed, super thankful for all the support. As you probably know, I left a very big job in August of this year to pursue being a full-time content creator and try to help bring the best wellness products to the masses. If you have any questions, post them down in the comments below. If you have any encouragement, please post down in the comments below. I read every single comment, the positive ones, the gray ones, and every once in a while a negative one, which is totally fine. I just want to pause real quick and thank you for your support and ask you, if you have not subscribed, please do so. If you feel anyone else can benefit from this, share this. You can share this on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share me with whoever you want to share me with. I love the support, and I just want to continue to grow it and help more and more people get well. Look at that boy. He's crazy. So while that's heating up, I do want to kind of talk about some ways to really maximize owning a sweat tent sauna, or any type of sauna for that matter, and that is getting yourself a way to get cold. So I have a few different cold plunges that I review over here. Pretty blessed to have multiple options, but if you were looking for a way to really maximize your sauna sessions, doing contrast therapy is absolutely one of the most incredible feelings. So many people have been coming over and experiencing that with us here at our house, and it's been a real blessing to be able to share that with people. But I would encourage you, you don't have to go spend a bunch of money and buy a bunch of different cold plunges, but find a way to get cold. Like right now it's cold outside, so usually the pool itself is like a cold plunge. It's been around 60 degrees. Getting yourself a mod tub, an ice barrel, or a different cold plunge is always a really cool idea. I even have a little DIY here with the ice barrels, and that's a really cool way for you to get cold inexpensively. And if you want to check out any of the videos on some of the cold plunges, obviously those are linked in my description, but also check out my channel. There's a ton of videos on different cold plunges you might want to check out. And one more really fun tip is, now that it's over 150, I'm gonna grab a little bit of water and pour it on the rocks. Woo! Now it'll splatter a little bit of water, so just kind of be aware of that. But it immediately, like, you can see my pores are like opening up right now. I just walked into this thing. Oh, that eucalyptus is so nice. I'm immediately wet. All my gear is gonna fry. Let me get out of here. So while that's firing up and really cranking the temperature up, I'm excited about this. Here's a tip. Here's a really good idea on what type of a schedule you should do. You can sauna anytime. Like right now it's lunchtime, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're gonna do a little lunchtime sweat sesh. We're gonna do some contrast therapy. We love doing contrast therapy. The kids are already ready in their bathing suits. The pool is 60 degrees. The cold plunges, we've got one at 38, we've got one at 44, we've got one at 50. So a lot of different options. But what we like to do is we like to start in the sauna just because it feels really nice. It's kind of cool outside. So we'll jump in the sauna. We'll do a session, typically 10 minutes. It's always better to go as long as you can, but keep it safe. Hydrate, drink electrolytes. I recommend SAPS or Relight, or even Power Lift has a lot of electrolytes in it, and they also have some protein. Links down in the description below to save you some money if you want to check my favorite products out. We like to do 10 to 15 minutes in the sauna and then do a quick 2-minute plunge. You can go up to 5 minutes, but we like to do a quick 2-minute plunge for the first session. The second session, we're able to stay in a lot longer. We'll typically do a 20-minute session in the sauna and then do a 3 to 4 minute cold plunge. If we're gonna do 3 or more sessions, we'll kind of go back and forth between 15 and 20 minutes in the sauna, depending on what we're feeling and how we're feeling, but then always end with a cold plunge. If you don't have a cold plunge yet, jump into a cold river, jump into a cold pool, or try to take a cold shower or rinse off with a cold hose after your sauna session, even at night. Always recommend trying to end cold. It's just better for your overall health, and it's gonna give your body a chance to naturally get into a comfortable state, especially if you're doing this at night before going to bed. You always want to end cold, even though some of you might question the science behind that. Like, really, you should do that because isn't it going to release dopamine? Is it going to release endorphins? Aren't you going to be all riled up? You would think so, but no. I track all my sleep with 8 Sleep, the greatest health and wellness invention I have used this year. Should do a whole video on that. 8 Sleep, you guys are amazing. I definitely want to produce more content on 8 Sleep and recommend it to more people because it has changed mine and my wife's life legitimately. But we track our sleep on 8 Sleep, and every time we do a contrast therapy night or even just a cold plunge before bed, always have better scores, always have deeper sleeps, always have a lower heart rate, better HRVs. So I'm just gonna keep on doing that. I don't know why I don't just do it every night. I have it, right? So this thing has been awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready so I can enjoy a session. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I do wanna thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe. See you guys on the next video if this is where it ends for you. Have a great day, guys. God bless. Ooh, yeah. But hey, before you go, I do want to encourage you, if you are more interested in learning more about contrast therapy, check out this video right here. Next to this video, I go into detail on contrast therapy with a cool little routine that I think you're going to want to check out. It's definitely worth the short watch. So check this one out right here.